I'm Joan Wyan, and I'm from Lebanon, Indiana, and I spent like 20 years in Providence, Rhode Island. It's been totally amazing and really like pretty nonstop, and just like really interesting to meet a ton of different people and see all these parts of the city that like I wouldn't, even if I kind of like discover, like kind of was just walking around and came across it, like I wouldn't know the history like I did from doing the fellowship and listening to the podcast and stuff. So I don't know, it's been really transformative, and I feel like I'm like gonna keep living this way in certain ways and trying to go see things that I wouldn't expect, or like I'm trying to think about outside of the box about what I can do going forward. Well, definitely just like looking for, I mean, like there's so many weird museums and stuff here, and like communities that like I wouldn't necessarily just go and be involved like in, and I feel like I would like, because I, with my art practice being like wanting to change stuff in the world, like I feel like I've been learning that to do that it's like direct connection with people, and like you can't just like think about wanting to do something without engaging with people and places in real life, and just how huge the world is. Like I don't know, I guess I just had so many experiences that I had never had before, so I kind of just went in open and was like excited to experience and things and meet people, and like there were definitely a lot of things I went into and I had no idea like what to expect, but I didn't like have a preconceived like expectation in this situation. I kind of like had an idea from just looking at the journals of the other fellows, but like, you know, the experience you can't like expect it, you know, like there are just so many different things, and I don't know, it's just like doing 3 things a day, you really just jump into the flow of it, and you're like not thinking about other stuff, you just kind of go follow the schedule that you sent, and each thing was so exciting to be a part of, so I personally love that. Like I kind of like the surprise and not knowing and just going into it, but I know that's probably harder for other people. Just kind of got in the flow and went places, and I think like COVID concerns were like my main like concern, but I felt like I had my N95 mask on the whole time, so I felt like protected even if I was in a group of people that like didn't wear masks or something. So and I don't know, I guess like how in my journal like I spoke about like some of the subway experiences that were like pretty intense, but like I also like knew that was going to be the case, but I think I'm just like so like excited to like experience different things that there wasn't anything too like challenging for me. I was just kind of like participating, whether like I necessarily like agree with it or not kind of thing, but there wasn't really too much that I didn't like agree with or like thought very like extremely differently about, you know. So
I noticed in your journal that when you did have those experiences, you just would sort of reflect upon them, or like you could use that as a catalyst to sort of be like, wow, this is, you know, like for example, the investing workshop or whatever.
Oh yeah, the investing workshop was funny, but it was like interesting to hear that too and like listen to it, and I didn't know like how much like how it worked exactly, so I did learn a lot about how it worked, and then it did like kind of confirm ways that I see the world. So
yeah,
I don't know, I was like glad to do it because it has been really good for me to do things that are outside of like what I know. So I think like at the beginning of the fellowship I was like really like if trying to be on time and like really wrapped up with like sticking to the schedule, and like being stressed out if I was like 5 minutes late to something, and then I kind of like loosened up about that and found that like most of the time, like even if I was 5 minutes late, like the thing didn't even start on time or something, so it was like I guess I loosened up a little bit with that, and like and I also feel like I got to know like the subway systems and stuff better, so I was able to really like move around the city with a little bit less like being on my phone trying to make sure I was going to the right place. Well, I mean, number one would probably have to be the Torah Animal World was like such an interesting, and Borough Park was just a really interesting experience because it was definitely like really different from like the way I live. So, and then like kind of the conversations I had with Nancy after that, and then with you, like it was like I feel like I learned a lot about like the Hasidic Jewish community. Like not that much. Like I'm sure there's a ton more that I can learn, but and then like I don't know, I really loved going to Roosevelt Island because like it was just like right next to it's right next to Manhattan, and you take the tram, which was so cool to be like over the water, and then it just felt like a different place even though it was like right there. And then I think like I really enjoyed doing all like the water travel, like different ways to get around the city, and doing like the ferries and I don't know, I guess like the transportation part was just kind of interesting in general. Trying to think of what other, there was like so much cool stuff. Like I loved the Boeing show at House of Yes. Like I was just like
what
having
was that like?
a blast at that. It was a fundraiser for like an artist who had like hurt their ACL and torn their ACL, and then so there was just like all these amazing performers. There was like aerial silks, there was people on like the pole, there were people like did a comedy act, singer, like a hula hoop, but like because the space was so tall, they were like up in the air, and you're just like, oh my god, if they fell, like. But and it was just like, I think because it was a fundraiser, like it had this different energy, and they did like a raffle during part of it, and people were just like $200, $300, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is like a drawing. I don't know, it's just kind of amazing. Because I think the fact that it was a fundraiser was like people were so supportive.
Right.
So it just had this like amazing feel. And then the space itself was so cool. Like it had like those cool like eyeball sculptures that open and close, and they had like the kind of like carnival kind of activity things.
And that one you went with a random person.
Yeah, and we had a blast. But she was like texting me, and she was like, I'm gonna be wearing a long red coat, and then I like saw this person get on the subway like right when we got into Brooklyn with like a long red coat and like in my car, which just felt kind of like random, like, and I was like, I think that's her. And then by the end of the subway ride, we were like, yes, like this is who I'm supposed to meet. And then we just had like so much fun because I think the experience was so exciting and like engaging that we were just like both in awe of what was happening. And I think we both hadn't been to like a show kind of like that since before the pandemic. So there was like this, and I think they also at House of Yes like hadn't done a big show like that too, maybe. It seemed like it was like their first one in a while, and so like the whole scene was just like really joyous and like exciting.
That's awesome.
I enjoyed being thrown into random hangouts with people I don't know. I kind of already, that's like, I'm a Gemini, so I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'll be flexible and meet people. It was kind of nice, the contrast of being paired up with people I didn't know and then having like a lot of time where I'm just like wandering solo around the streets. But everyone I met was like really cool. All the other people that I met were prior fellows, so they were like excited to meet me and know that I'm like doing this experience.
Sing wasn't though.
Exactly, yeah. Everyone except for Singh was a prior fellow, so they were excited. But she was great, and she was like, I don't know, we just hit it off right away. But I think because the scene was so exciting, like it was easy for us to just be like, oh wow. The exercise classes were really fun, and the boxing one was definitely the most challenging because it was like they were like, get down on the ground, but they were like really friendly about it too. But I like really almost bailed because I was like I just like wanted to wear my mask, and it was like a lot to get so active like while wearing my mask. And but then I pushed through, and then it was like really fun. I was paired with somebody who was really like easy, like just able to work with really well. And the whole like it was weird, like 'cause it was down in that, it was like 2 floors down in a basement, and it really felt like Fight Club or something down there. Like, and there were posters all over the walls. I was like, where am I? And it was funny because like the Google Maps on the way in like took me in the back entrance. So like I didn't even come down the main stair. I came down this like back stairwell, and it was like even weirder looking, and there were no signs. And I kind of like pushed through this door, and on the other side of the door it was like, do not open this door. And I was like, okay. And then I walked down like the brick hallway. It was kind of like crumbly, and I was like, where am I? But then it opened up into like the boxing ring and all the people in there like doing the classes. So
Did you have experiences where you felt totally lost?
Like
were you in
when I was walking around?
Yeah.
Or, I'm gonna drink the water.
Have any questions too?
What do you think? Well, I mean, there were a couple of times where I felt really lost because my phone battery was like dying, and I was like, I've gotta remember, like, or I've gotta find a plug. But in all those cases, I was like able to either find the plug or like, but I also like wandering around and being lost. I'm trying to think if there was like a particular time where I was really like turned around or something, but I don't think there was. So I was using that City Mapper app, and I was able to just like figure out which way to go.
I love it.
I guess like one of the most fun things like I had done that was kind of like the exercise was the compost volunteering shift was like very active, but I loved that scene. Like I feel like everyone should like go volunteer at that compost site because it was just really exciting. And I've done composting before, but it's like in a barrel, and so it wasn't as like these were big piles, and they had like, you know, a whole system of like mixing it and then kind of coating it with other piles, and it was really exciting. And I really enjoyed that. Oh, and then this was like the funniest thing. I wrote a little bit about it in the journal. Was then like I walked, actually this was one of the times when I felt really lost, was when I was walking to the ferry, and like there was like a little road that was supposed to be open that takes you like right to the ferry, but it was closed. And you were kind of in this weird like dock area, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna like walk around. And like that was one of the times where my phone battery was dying, and then I was just like, okay, I think I'll turn through this fence, but I don't know if I'm allowed to go through it. Like, and then I went to the dock, and like the people, the like workers for the ferry are on the boat, so they're the ones that pop off when they get there and scan it. So it was just like no one was at the dock. I was like, well, I think I'm in the right place. And then these 2 guys that were like around my age like came. And they were like, are we in the right place? I was like, I think so. And then we talked for a long time because the ferry wasn't until like, it was like later because it was Saturday. And so we talked for a long time, we got on the boat, and then like, we were like, oh, bye. It was like really nice to meet them. And then the next day I was like on the High Line walking, and we like crossed paths, and we were like, oh my God, like, hello. It was like so exciting for like both of us. And then we like put it out there that we're like gonna somehow like cross paths again. Like, well, I don't know.
Were they traveling from somewhere else?
Seemed likely. Yeah, they were from Prague, and so they were like staying up on 44th Street or something. So it was really random that like we crossed paths like in the pretty desolate like Red Hook ferry, and then like I feel like more likely that we crossed paths in the High Line because it's so narrow. But still, like the timing of things like is pretty funny. Like it felt like when I ran into you a little bit like in the at the Chinese like Lunar New Year parade, or what's it called, the Chinese
That was
New
the
Year
lion
parade.
dance.
That was so amazing. The lion dance was so cool. Gosh, that feels like forever ago.
When you did the High Line, did you read about the native plants and stuff?
I did, yeah. I read, like I sat down and read about the plants on a bench like before I started, so I could kind of like walk and look for them. I think because it was like, you know, the end of winter, like everything, it was kind of hard to like identify stuff in the same way, but I definitely like kept an eye out on, and then like just really appreciated that they were plants that like were growing there and that like are native, because I wouldn't have necessarily known that if I didn't read that part of the that part that you shared in the schedule. So
Totally.
it was easy to use the schedule because I downloaded the Files app and then was able to just check that, and then I think I had the Documents app too, so I was able, like all the like walking tours I just had on my phone, so that was pretty easy, and I don't know.
Awesome.
I really like therapy. I go to therapy like outside of just as like a wellness practice, so I really appreciated therapy, and it was really nice to talk to Nancy and kind of process each week with her. I guess like being here and doing the experience here, like I feel like I just scratched the surface of what is happening in New York, and like so thinking about going back home, there's like so much I don't know, and I guess that's just kind of that's how I feel about seeing the world now. So, and that's really helpful to kind of see how big the world is, and like also accept that you don't know very much. But that allows you to like figure out how to get to engage a lot more in a lot of different other communities and ways, and make those impacts that you like, that I would like want to make going forward. So my thoughts for future fellows would be like one of the first things I did was, this is like practical, was like bought a new pair of shoes at Nordstrom Rack, which was in the apartment, because I brought like winter boots and it was just like too much, and I've just been wearing these like sneaker shoes that are really comfortable for the rest of the trip. But other than that, I guess just like I'm trying to think of like what I just kind of go with the flow, because like that's what I was doing, and I felt like I was trying to do that in the beginning too, but I was definitely more like anxious about timing and stuff. And then as the weeks went on, I just jumped. It just felt like you just go, and I came like back to the apartment when I needed to just chill out a little bit and eat some food, and then I would just go back out. Oh, that's probably something that was like really interesting to me, because I feel like at home I can get into my head and like I'll be like supposed to go somewhere but I won't go, and then like I'll stay in that mindset for a long time. I mean, this is like goes beyond fellows, but like doing the fellowship, I was like, all right, get up, go out there. And then once I was like in motion in the experience, I was like having a blast and like totally out of like whatever weird mind state I was in. So just like, I guess, don't stay stuck in your like, if you're stuck thinking about something and circling, like getting out of the house, getting out and going and doing something shifts you out of that and really changes like the rest of your day and probably like your week, you know? So that'll be like a really important one for me, because I feel like I am a person that I do get stuck, like, I mean, we probably all do, but stuck circling and thinking about stuff. And now I have this like tool of just like get my butt out of the door and go somewhere. So I don't know when like I'll travel next, but I feel like when I do travel, I'll engage in a different way. Because when I've traveled before in different cities, I do just wander around, but I don't necessarily know a lot about what's going on. And now I feel like I have tools to really learn more about the spaces I'm in.